Research shows that students who are adept at higher order thinking skills are more likely to become lifelong learners. So using strategies that capitalize on these skills can be especially beneficial both in and out of the classroom. The two-voice poem strategy takes advantage of all your students' higher order thinking skills, asking them to analyze and evaluate two concepts and then compare and contrast them in one creative work.
In a two-voice poem, two concepts or points of view are compared through poetry and performance. Each side has its own poem, its own voice, that takes place simultaneously with the other side's poem. The voices take turns speaking, each taking a line or two to say something revealing about itself, before coming together as one voice to say a truth common to both sides.
Students create these poems from the information they research themselves. I'll pick two things for students to compare and contrast based on what we're studying at the time. Say we're studying World War II. I might have them compare and contrast the Axis and Allies or Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt to help them better understand World War II as a whole. I'll group students into teams of two where each student has a different side to research. After researching their topics and making 10 to 15 notes each, the pair will get back together to discuss the things they found, paying attention to the things their topics had in common and the things they didn't.
Once students have made their lists, they practically have their poems written. Each thing they listed as being something their topics didn't have in common becomes a verse in the poem. Each thing they listed as something that their topics did have in common becomes a chorus, one line written on both sides and read in unison.
Sometimes the two things will have a lot in common, like Churchill and Roosevelt, so the two-voice poem might have a new chorus every few verses. And sometimes they won't have a whole lot in common, so the same chorus might be repeated throughout the poem.
Once the poems are done, I have students perform their two-voice poems in front of the class. Each student reads the lines for their topic only, alternating with their partner. When they encounter a common statement, both students read it together. This way, the differences and similarities between the two topics can be heard by the rest of the class.
What other ways have you found to help your students synthesize information by creating something new? Do you have a new take on the two-voice poem strategy? Pass your tips and tricks to other teachers in the comments.